Happy birthday, almost.
Almost my birthday. You know what I like about that?
Happy birthday to you.
Hey.
Happy birthday to you. I'm
It's
guessing
me.
you like everything about it.
No, but nobody's here yet is what I like about it. Just my mom and dad.
Well, they know it's your birthday.
Yeah, they do.
It's tomorrow.
They did this. They did this to me.
That's your fake social media birthday.
April 1st.
That's kind of perfect.
Yeah, I think so. We have an author.
We didn't even ask.
I don't know. We'll have to have him correct us later. Robert P. Ottone. Ottone? Ottone.
School teacher turned horror author and owner of publishing place Spooky House Press.
I've been saying his name of his book wrong every time. It's like the vile creature.
Vile thing we created.
Oh yeah, vile thing we created. It's like, to me, it's like the things we carried. I put like 65 other titles into this thing.
It's super creepy.
Yeah.
It's about parenthood, but the way that you hope it doesn't turn out.
And I got a birthday gift too, so we're gonna open that.
Hi everyone, Tim Kitzer from NBA Jam and NFL Blitz, welcoming you to The Backpack Show. Your hosts, Chris Brogan, Kerry Gorgone, Boom Shakalaka.
Backpack Show. There was Mistress Harley.
Mm-hmm. We always look at a different person, but
Yeah.
you always look at the same person.
I look at Mistress Harley every time. No, Jesse Cole though, come on.
I do, but
Spin
then
bananas.
so if I don't know what certain people always draw me. If Horacio Garcia,
I love
is in
Horacio.
the roster, I always look at him.
Deb and our man Angus
Hey.
Nelson is here. Hi, Angus.
Checking in from
Happy
Portugal.
Easter weekend. Carl. The vile things we created and carried. Yes. They made the baby. They carried the
more than
baby.
one. Yes.
Thanks, Joanne. Appreciate that. My friend Leslie sent a gift.
What do we got?
So now all I know is that you get the jar and I get the sexy bottle. So
How do you know?
one felt more jar-like. Oh, she even wrapped it. It's a Crown Royale bottle.
You might have wanted to check this before we tried to do it on the show.
Yeah, it
It's
could have
like
been
a bunch of wrapping in it, and
What if
it's upside down.
Jeez.
I know.
So I got liquor. No, it's I got
Ayo.
maple sugar from Leslie, my friend Leslie, right here. I almost said her maiden name because that's all
you know.
her as.
Don't help the identity.
She's been married for like 306 years, and I still.
I'm gonna spill this, but I want to smell it.
Oh well, you gotta smell it.
Oh,
Oh
that
wow!
smells so good.
Oh,
Stop.
you gotta drink it. Oh my gosh! And get this. Oh, Kerry has news.
I do.
Kerry had Kerry had braces for like 106 years,
Oh yeah, I already forgot all about it.
and you got your braces off. So now you can try maple sugar peanuts.
Oh yay! I couldn't eat nuts or popcorn or any of the things I actually wanted to eat. Laffy Taffy, like a bunch of stuff was off the menu since July of 2021. So
Have a delicious peanut. I spilled some in the bag.
did you actually spill it? I had a feeling opening it was going to be a bad idea.
Well, what can you do?
Open up.
We feel like a morning show today. Hey, let's talk about the weather, and then we'll get our guest on, Robert, probably Ottone. I don't know why I didn't think to ask him that question.
Well,
Thank you, Leslie. Leslie, you had something like 9,606
thank
gallons.
you so much.
Unbelievable. 90 something gallons post or something like that. Like
I
she's
feel like now
basically
we're gonna
a
have to
business.
share it with Robert.
So,
We can't
all
not.
right. I'm not sharing mine. F that. All right. Let's bring Robert on. Robert, help us out. We forgot to ask that question. Is it Ottone?
Ottone.
Ottone.
You close?
Sorry.
No,
We
it's
talked
okay.
about we were down to talking about Fenway Park before we went live.
Yeah,
we never got around to
we didn't
say,
get to the
hey, how do you
name.
actually say your name?
I'm not going to stop eating them.
All right, don't.
They're delicious.
I appreciate
So-
you trying, and you were close. You were very close. I've had people say like Ottone, Otten. So you were very close.
Ottone is
and I
kind of
appreciate it.
exotic.
Yeah. So like
Yeah.
the traditional like Italian way of saying it would be Ottone, which I
Oh.
tried when I first started writing, and it just nobody did it. Only one guy in Scotland, actually he's in New Zealand now. He says Ottone, and I never correct him. I'm like, that's fine. I like how you say it. You have the Scottish accent.
I have maple syrup on my hands, just so you know. So if it gets
I
caught in
didn't
my
know-
hair later, like a
I didn't know that you
nest.
had braces. What was that like?
I did used to for till like Monday.
That's
And
crazy.
what was it
What,
like? What was it like? It sucked.
really?
She couldn't eat anything.
Eat anything.
She had to basically like soup.
It's fine. No one's here to hear about my braces.
I'm
They're gone.
just curious. I find it fascinating.
I'm so excited. Well, I should have had braces when I was a teenager, but the dentist didn't mention it till I was off to college because I graduated a year early. And I was like, I know you don't think I'm getting braces right before I go to college. So.
All right, we'll get to your dumb scary book in a second.
More than one scary book. Thank you very much.
Well, his most recent dumb scary book
And publishing company.
and publishing company, Spooky World or whatever. I was so close.
And investigative work that
Smack House or something. I am the worst
serial
interviewer.
killer.
But I want to hear about. Okay, let's back it up. So right now, you're a school teacher. Big whoop.
Yeah.
You were.
That is big whoop.
I'm just messing with it. Look how happy he is. You were a journalist who tracked a serial killer. Holy cow. First off, how do you get that assignment? Because most journalists have to carry the town meeting. Like, how did you set this up? How'd this work?
So I was doing town meetings and stuff, which I actually found really fascinating.
I
highlighted you guys. That's fine. You could
effing this up everywhere.
Because you try to eat peanuts.
So like
while
I was covering like the town meetings and stuff, which I did enjoy, and different things, interviewing like business owners and stuff, which I thought was really cool. And then it was like 2011, and these bodies started being found along the southern coast of Long Island. And it was like every day it seemed like one was being found. And I was like, well, that's weird. So I started looking into it a little bit more and kind of inserting myself into the area and talking to cops and talking to residents of the area. And it was basically a lot of women who were sex workers were being discovered in the area. And about a year went by. Hurricane Sandy happened here and destroyed a lot of evidence and destroyed a lot of that particular part of Long Island. So a lot of things were lost. And it came to be known as 3 different names: the Craigslist killer, the Long Island serial killer, or the Gilgo Beach killer. And I got super involved in writing about it for a local outlet. I was the only one who was writing about it. I was talking to victims' families like every week or so, learning interesting things all about them. And I started meeting some very shady characters. And, I have a little bit of information for you. Can you meet me here? Blah, 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 blah. It's the only time I was ever threatened as a reporter, basically being told, like, if you keep looking into this, things could happen, blah, blah, blah. That happened twice. And eventually it kind of died down because Long Island has a very short attention span. New York in general has a very short attention span. And, we just kind of forgot about the Long Island serial killer. A few years went by. My dad passed away. So this was like 2019. So it's like 7 years after. I wanted something to kind of occupy myself. So I was recovering from stomach surgery. I was taking time off work. And I put together a podcast that's no longer available, but it was called Voices from Gilgo, where I started organizing all of my old information and theories and stuff like that, and kind of put together this whole project. And from there, it turned into me doing lectures about the Long Island serial killer. And now I do a whole bunch of lectures about different true crime cases. Like I did one on the Delphi murders, which is the 2 young girls in Delphi, Indiana. Just did the Zodiac last night, which is probably my favorite. But and I have one on the New York Zodiac that I'm doing in like a week. But I find true crime interesting. I'm actually working on a sort of true crime book with a guy. It's my first collaboration. So that's kind of fun. But like,
So
yeah, the
turns
Long
out,
Island.
Guess who they're gonna look at?
Yeah. But it's weird because it's like, it's an unsolved thing here on Long Island, and the police seemingly have done everything they can to figure it out. And it's just never going to be solved, which is a shame because these women, they were people. Like the general consensus was like, well, they're sex workers. Like, but it's like, well, no, they're people. Like they're human beings. They're mothers, they're sisters, like, I don't know.
Here's
there was
what
like a
we
weird
do,
attitude about
Albert.
it.
We put you out there as bait because he's already threatened you twice. So
that's true.
Right.
That's true. One of
so
the
how much
victims...
of that fed into your horror writing? And did you write other kinds of books or stories before?
Yeah, I had written some short fiction before that. And then I just kind of went into journalism and I wasn't writing fiction at all. And one of the things that like drew me back into fiction was I had all of these kind of emotions after I finished that true crime project, after I lost my dad. I had all of these feelings and stuff, and I started therapy, and I was like, I got to get this out somehow. So I started writing fiction again, and my first collection came out, and that's like unfiltered emotion, like translated through horror stories. And, I was happy with it. And then I started working on more short stories and more short fiction and turned into a second collection. And then I started getting an MFA, and the project that I chose to work on was my young adult book, The Triangle, which is the book that's nominated for the Stoker Award, which was really crazy. And I still kind of can't believe that is a thing that happened. So,
Bram Stoker Award-nominated author.
It's a big thing.
Crazy.
So I was in 9th grade, and my teacher for history class was William R. Forstchen, who had published quite a bunch of books and went on subsequently to publish a lot more. He co-wrote a bunch with Newt Gingrich, of all humans. It was cool to have a teacher who was a published author. Do your students at school go, oh, this is cool? Do they not care because you're not a very good TikTok dancer? Like, how's this work out?
Or do they read your stuff and get really horrified and can't look at you the same way anymore?
A little bit of both. I've had students bring in copies of my books to sign, and it's like really cute when they do that. And I'm always like, oh my God. And they sign and I give them, they put it back in their bags. But like, yeah, they're interested and they're impressed, but then like immediately they go back to TikTok, and it's just, they none of them can write very well. And, as hard as I try, there's only a couple that are actually like really great essay writers. And, there's only so far I could take you, at a certain point, TikTok is not going to be able to teach you how to write an essay. But
true crime probably isn't something they let you put on ye old curriculum. Is that, do you sneak in a little bit of your horror passions or anything? How's that work?
I've tried so much. Around Halloween, I'll do, because obviously that's like the only time I decorate my classroom too. Because I don't believe in decorating my classroom. There's no studies to prove that putting a bunch of nonsense up helps children learn anything. But at Halloween time, pumpkins go everywhere. It's like a whole thing. But like I do a unit on The Lottery by Shirley Jackson. So I'll do that. I'll introduce a couple other spooky stuff here and there. But for the most part, public schools do not like spooky stuff in the classroom. They don't like anything like that, which is a shame because I've tried to do a unit on The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. I built an entire unit on that and it was rejected. So that was kind of a bummer.
Because I read that book. I would actually love to
we'll
see.
take the course.
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
That was a great book.
I just imagine your version of Lord of the Flies is a little spookier than everyone else's.
I love teaching Lord of the Flies. That's like my favorite book to teach. And I get super performative with it. So like every time I'm reading a different character, like I kind of like turn into them. My favorite is Simon. So when I'm playing Simon, I'm like kind of like hallucinatory and like tripping out because he's like always on the verge of having a seizure. And I'm always like, pig's head on a stick. Like it's just like trippy. And then of course when I'm Jack, I'm like, I like get up on my haunches and try to make myself look bigger because that's what he's all about. And it's just so much fun. I don't know. I love teaching it. Writing skills.
OMG IDK. FR, Dad.
I've had so many students, instead of writing the word you, just put the letter U. And it drives me up the wall, and I always circle it in red, and I put a big 0 at the top of their page. I was like, I'm not reading this anymore until you fix this.
You're a serious dude. You're like, I'm not decorating my classroom. I don't cotton to that nonsense. You get a 0 for that.
I had one administrator say that it looks like a jail classroom. She's gone now, but yeah,
she's gone. No one knows where.
Yeah, so they'll find her along the coast.
And then Robert, which explains a lot about the newest book, The Vile Thing We Created.
Yes.
Well,
yeah,
where
I'm excited.
Were you in your life when you said this is what I got to write? Because it's clear kind of where, like it is built from your belly, but where were you in the stages of your life when you wrote this?
Yeah, so I guess it was like 2.5 years ago I started it, and I was kind of thinking, because obviously we were in the pandemic and stuff, and like right in the heart of it too, and I hadn't seen a lot of. I'm loving the comments. No, I love it. But I hadn't seen like a lot of my friends in person. We were doing like the Zoom meetups and stuff, and we were smoking cigars and drinking and all that, which was fine. That was lovely to see them. But like, I really started thinking about like because I only got married 2 Junes ago. So I've only been married 2 years, but like they got married like 15 years ago. They all started having kids like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever. And I remember thinking about like, when they all met their partners and started and like got married and stuff, they started excluding the single people. And I remember how much that sucked, because like me and my one best friend, we were always single, and we would be smoking cigars and drinking and having a good time, and they'd all be off having dinner together, and it's like 6 couples and then just us 2 schmucks. And I remember how much that sucked. And then when they started having kids is when it started to suck even more, because then it turned into like, oh, well, we're just doing play dates. They have kids. We have kids. We're going to do play dates, blah, 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 blah. And I remember thinking like, I think your kids are fun and cute and cool, and I would like to hang out with you guys and the kids. Like, I don't know. So that's like
maybe
really
kind
of
murder, Robert. Maybe it's the murder. Lighten up.
Can we just wait a minute? Can we just zoom in and look at the background imagery there?
Oh, bring the kids over.
Come on over.
I got a bag.
We're talking about Dennis from It's Always Sunny, the Golden God.
Right.
But yeah, so I remember feeling like super excluded from stuff like that. And I just remember how much that sucked. And how dare they leave Uncle Rob out of the pool party? Thank you, Aquino. That's exactly right, bro. That's the Golden God right there. So it's just frustrating. And I remember those were kind of the original germs of like, or the original seeds rather, of like where this idea came from. And so I sort of put my personal feelings and some of the feelings of my friends who were single, now we're all married and everything, into this, and where that came from, and where I thought I could take that with a horror premise. And I sort of like, I've always loved Ira Levin, who wrote Rosemary's Baby and, oh my God, the other one, the Stepford Wives. And I sort of wanted to write something in those kinds of traditions. And a lot of people have compared this to like a modern Rosemary's Baby. So that makes me really happy.
That's why it does feel like payback. This all makes sense.
Yeah. In some ways, yeah. But like, I get it. It's like the next phase kind of thing. Like they don't know that it sucks to be excluded. I don't know if they're going to be coming to any of my signings or anything here on the island. So they'll kind of be put on blast, I guess, a little bit if that kind of a question comes up. But they have to realize
their kids are on to ignoring them, so I'm sure they're looking for something.
Yeah, for real, which sucks for them. But it's just, it comes from that, like it's a strange place to inhabit, because like I've had the same friends since kindergarten, so like we've known each other forever. Wow. And to all of a sudden be like cast aside, which I get, like your wife, your husband, whatever, your kids, like that's number one. But like keep everybody in the mix. Like my wife's friends don't do that. My wife's friends are like, yeah, everybody all the time. It's great. My
just
friends
wait until they hit a certain point and like half of them get divorced, and then they'll be totally down.
Then you'll just be chilling all the time with those divorced guys. They love cigars.
And murder.
And murder.
Yeah.
One of the things about this as a horror book, though, it's interesting, like you say, about the Rosemary's Baby element, but you're a fan of the genre. You're a fan of early horror too, where there was such a ramp before everything crazy went, like pre-Blumhouse horror, where like there could be story and whatnot. So to me, it was interesting. For instance, I don't want to give anything away, but I'm going to give one random minor detail. You don't get tenure. Your character doesn't get tenure. Yeah. That's horror. Oh God, I have this kid and I have to worry about my money, and I'm not sure I have my job. Like, that is as horror for a guy reading this book as a scary baby. So I'm curious about, like, how did you, I've never written that kind of fiction. So how do you sort of put that thread of human horror in with, evil baby horror?
I was thinking about, like, how do I ratchet up because that's, in my mind, I would agree with you. Like the not getting tenure or not being considered for tenure is just as terrifying as like an evil baby or whatever the case may be, like a ghost or any of that stuff, because it has real world implication. Like if a house is haunted, you just move, whereas if you don't get tenure, or if you're denied tenure for whatever reason, there's so much more to it than that. That means that the administration is watching you. That means that, the community is watching you. Parents are complaining. And there's so much more. And then it becomes an IR-11 horror novel without there being any ghost monsters or evil babies, because you have like sort of this thing that you can't fight going against you, which really sucks. And so I wanted to kind of put that in the context of like just another thing to add stress to the lead character. And it's something that really affects him. Yeah. It puts, it's more strain, right? So like, I'm in a school where tenure does not exist. We don't have tenure. Or if we do have tenure, it's very tenuous at best. Like it doesn't, tenure, this is going to sound weird as a teacher or whatever, but like, I don't believe in tenure. I don't believe in somebody working for 4 years and then being told they can't be fired. Like no other jobs have that. Like that seems crazy to me. Because what's the incentive to keep learning?
Decorating a classroom either, so forgive me.
Yeah, and you teach the lottery. So
people teach that.
No, but I'm just saying. Of course, he doesn't believe in tenure. He's like running his own Hunger Games. But,
if I could, I would.
You get a buck of nerds.
It's just like it's just a weird thing. Like I just. And for her, the wife in the story, I really wanted to add like the real world stuff of the horror that goes into getting pregnant, but not only the horror that goes into getting pregnant, the fact that she's a woman of color. And I didn't know this going into the book, but there are so many issues that are layered on top of being pregnant. For individuals of color. Like when I started looking this up, I was like, that's insane that not only do they have to deal with being pregnant, but there's all this other institutional kind of, racism, medical issues and stuff that go with it. And my mind was blown when I was reading those things.
Internal outcomes are much worse.
Yeah. I was just, I couldn't believe it. I was just shocked. Bumped twice because of tenure.
Done a midwife business just for people of color in New York.
Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm. For the same thing, they were running into the same thing: lack of advocacy, lack of and you cover that. There's like an early scene where Lola goes in because she had a little spell, and you kind of get right to that. Is that it's so funny? They would write what you know, which is the most BS thing to ever say about books, but. What you're a journalist before a teacher, so what kind of research did we do?
I talked to a lot of medical professionals, one in particular who's actually a horror author as well. She's a Stoker winner, Evie Knight. She is a OBGYN. She gave me a lot of information about what goes into some of those medical sequences. So she was super invaluable and gave me a lot to work with. And then I also talked to, women of color that I know that have had children and they told me some of the fears that they had going into it. Thankfully, they all had healthy pregnancies and they have healthy kids. But that all came from a, very real place. And it's just alarming, though. Like, we never hear about that stuff. The advocacy thing is huge. And, Lola, thankfully, knows that she has to advocate for herself in a very big way. And, she's an intelligent woman and is strong as well. Very much so based on my wife, by the way. Like, I wanted a strong, intelligent woman lead. And I was like, well, who's the strongest, most intelligent woman I know? Well, that would be my wife. So I took a lot of, my wife is also a baker. So I took a lot of her kind of like, working and her personality and put her into Lola.
But there's quite a lot about the father's experience too, which a lot of times can be neglected in stories like this.
Yeah, I think too about like, Rosemary's Baby is a good example, right? Like, it's either the parents are kind of against each other and when something's going on, or like one of them just straight up doesn't believe what's going on. Like Guy in Rosemary's Baby is such a dick. He's so like, he's just the worst. He's just such a gaslighting schmuck. And I didn't want Ian to be that, because he's experiencing things as well, but he's taking his time to kind of rationalize what it is. He's not in such a rush. Lola thinks it's one thing. Ian has suspicion that it's something else entirely. So while they don't agree that it's the same thing, they're never like, no, you're wrong. This place is fine. Everything's fine. You're just feeling sick. Like, it's never anything like that, which is, when you're watching a horror movie and one character is like, we know for a fact what's going on, and the experience of that one character is true, and then the other characters are gaslighting them. It's so obnoxious.
But it's so they make a decision to become parents in a pretty rational way, and they're clearly good communicators, good decision makers. It just reminded me of Amityville Horror, where they're like, hey, let's talk about buying this house, and it's a little weird this happened, but what do you think? And they analyze it, and they're like, cool, let's buy the house. I mean, I'll know how that turns out. So
yeah.
Sometimes things don't turn out well, even if you make decisions the way you're supposed to.
And I was thinking about that a lot too, because I know, some people, I know couples who have had kids to save marriages or to save, their relationship. And of course, spoilers, it never goes well. Whereas I know the parents who have taken their time to really think it through and really have like an honest conversation about having children. And those relationships are healthy, and their kids are they're intelligent, they're exploratory, their minds are fun, they're allowed to have a good time. Whereas the kids that save a marriage are usually glued to their phones. They can't communicate all that well because their parents don't communicate. They mimic what they see, right? So that's exactly what I wanted for Lola and Ian. I wanted them to make an honest decision, because my wife and I had a lot of those like honest conversations about, we're child free. We don't plan on having kids. We may adopt in the future if the money comes in great abundance at some point. I will happily adopt a child. Well, I think if we're able to leave Long Island, let's just say, because it's remarkably expensive here to live, but if there was an opportunity to adopt a child down the line, we've talked about it, because there's so many kids in foster care that need a home. There's kids overseas that need a home. I'm not, against that. I would love that. But, just having our own kid, we're both just kind of like, no, there's enough kids in the world, and especially kids without parents. Like, we would rather do that.
Cool. I was thinking about the fact that Ian is Ian's like one of the fun characters to make in a horror, because it seems like so many horror people are so clueless, but Ian is like, he goes to comic book shops. He's a Reddit reader. He's very up. And so
yeah.
Did that sort of intelligence and kind of perception, did that burn into the writing, because you do want him to have sort of a, hey, what happened? Or like, did you write yourself into any corners because of his wisdom and knowledge?
No, I think like having a character who is a little more up on things and is a little more, interested in the world around them, I think gives them more of an open mind. You're not writing like from the perspective of, let's say, a Catholic priest in The Exorcist. Not saying Catholic priests are not open-minded, because certainly Father Karras is like, yeah, this is called schizophrenia now. Being possessed isn't real, but it's like having that kind of a perspective or whatever, I think could be more limiting than a guy who's like, I'm on Reddit all the time. I'm reading comic books. I'm reading this, that, because, he's reading horror fiction even, like he's kind of me in a lot of ways, but like, he's also a little more open-minded to like the possibility that something spooky could be going on, because he has a blank spot in his history that he can't fill in without talking to his mom, who is remarkably difficult to talk to, not unlike my own mother.
I'm going to handle a sidebar conversation that was going on. Dean Shaw points out that the Dean Shaw Institute of Linguistics has determined that no one has ever really laughed out loud while rolling on the floor. My dad, being my dad, points out, well, I have fainted while laughing once, and I fell right on my face and bent my glasses. He totally rolled on the floor, but he fainted to do it. I was there.
Did you tell a joke?
It wasn't a joke. It was a blooper. It was TV's Bloopers and Practical Jokes, that fine 80s show. Mm-hmm. And Ed McMahon was reading off of a cue card, and a woman got behind him and started reading off the same cue card, just sort of parroting what he was doing. And my dad thought that was the funniest thing in the world. And then he went whoosh straight down. And
wow.
Turns out the whole thing. There you go. Who knows, Robert? This could be a character sometime. You run your own press.
Yes.
Spooky House Press.
Spooky House. So besides naming it after basically Spirit of Halloween, what is that for you? And what, are you, is that just your label, or are you going to bring in other developing people, or what's happening?
It started originally because I didn't really know how to approach publishing houses with my own stuff, with my 2 collections. So it's like, okay, well, people self-publish all the time, so I'm going to create a small press and I'm going to put my own stuff out, and then we'll see what happens. And then it turned into publishing other people. So we've published 5 or 6 other authors now. I haven't published my own stuff on there in a while. And basically, I've turned it into a way for people who maybe don't have like as big of an audience to get their start in publishing, and to like work with someone who like does care about their work and does want them involved as much as humanly possible. Because like I have had terrible experiences working with publishers, and I've had great experiences working with publishers. The great outnumbers the terrible. However, that's not like the exclusive rule, because I hear from a lot of people like, this publisher doesn't get back to me. They take like 4 months before I hear from them, and blah, 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 blah. So it's very strange to me that that's the case, because at the end of the day, like the publisher's trying to make money, the author's trying to make money. Why not be as transparent and open as humanly possible? So that's like kind of the commitment that I've made with my own press. And we've published a lot of really great stuff. We have a book coming out in May called The Disappearance of Tom Nero by TJ Price. I'm really excited about that. It's sort of a novelette in 3 parts. It's a journal, it is a first draft novel, and then it is a document-based novel. So it's all 3 things in all 3 different formats, and there's like liner notes and stuff. It's really a fabulous endeavor from everybody behind the scenes, not me, but everybody else. And we put out a book. We put out a beautiful middle grade novel called Into the Gray that really talks about, it lets kids know that it's okay to not be okay. And, I think that's a hugely important message. Oh, thank you. Folks who do not know how to write great stories need good production outlets. I totally agree. And that's the whole goal. That's the whole goal of Spooky House Press.
Well, if anybody needs a book publicist, FSB Associates, Fazia Burke, the best book publicists in the place.
Ooh.
Which of your books would you recommend to a first-time reader? Asks some man named Steve Brogan.
Who once fainted watching America's Funniest Home Videos.
I would say the new one, The Vile Thing We Created, does a lot with there's a lot of themes that I play with, and my work takes place in a fictional version of sort of a Hudson Valley Catskills type area, and this book is very much this is that area kind of story. It tells the story of like two neighboring sister towns and the family that lives there and all of this stuff. So I would say The Vile Thing We Created is the one to start with. Comes out April 18th.
We never did ads today.
Yeah. So here's a question.
We're the worst.
You ever used StreamYard, Robert? Run it now. You can make a show just like this, and if you're smart, you'll do your ad reads at the beginning.
You could make a murder show.
You could make a murder.
And if you
I'm all
want
about
to
murder
save
shows.
money, get a longer free trial, see brogan.net/streamyard.
Yeah. And hey, want a .online domain?
Murder.online.
Murder.online. You go to cbrogan.net/online. Use the code Chris when you sign out. You get this whole thing for like $1.
Chris in all caps
whatever.
gets you the domain for a year for 99 cents.
99 cents.
That's pretty sweet.
Stop it.
What the? Okay.
Can't yellow flag you from over here.
No, you really can't. All right. So we have come to this part of the show where we have a person of the day.
Oh, and here's our person of the day. Kaboom!
That is the voice of Tim Kitzrow, who is famously the voice of NBA Jams, NFL Blitz, and several other midway
Mr.
games.
Boom shakalaka.
He's the guy who invented the phrase "boom shakalaka."
That's
So,
awesome.
I love him.
Yeah.
He's so great.
He read us like 15 minutes of things without us giving him any insight,
So
and he
great.
just made them for us. And I'll play
Wow.
another one for you in a minute. I'm going to give it to my own dad. Nepotism.
I think that's a good idea.
I think it's fair.
Okay.
He really.
Although
participated.
Leslie gave us syrup.
Leslie did give us syrup. So I'll show you some of the out of context, but I will show you some of the other quotes Tim gave us.
Oh, for gosh sake, stop talking. Let the woman speak.
Oh yeah, we'll do the ad. Where's the ad?
I like
Why
that
am I
one.
missing?
I don't know.
Did
Maybe
you?
don't have
We
it.
didn't throw it away. Oh, there we
No,
go.
I wouldn't
Here we
throw
go.
it
Guest.
away.
Here's guest of the show.
Guests of the show stay at the inconveniently located from downtown or anywhere, never to be confused with luxurious and never updated FDR Hotel, located somewhere off Highway 84 near an old gas station with a burned out van parked out front with a for sale sign.
We did none of that.
He just made all of these up.
That's insane.
So we started with races. We end talking about Tim Kitzrow.
That's amazing. Is he the person of the
I
day?
think so. My dad's the
Tim.
person of the day. Tim does the voice of it. Boom Shakalaka was in the movie Stripes. Yes, but not the way Tim did it. Food trumps jokes every time. Okay,
That's
so.
So your dad was even saying, give it to Leslie.
There you go.
So is that boozy stuff that you guys were drinking before? Is that boozy?
No, this is maple syrup.
Oh, it's just
We're
straight
just
up maple
like-
syrup.
I'm
Oh,
just drinking it.
because it's in a Crown
How
Royal
do you
thing.
think you get fat, Robert? You get drink maple syrup. That's how you get fat.
Okay, all right. That's hardcore. I love it.
Health. Look at all maple syrup.
And that's
Yeah.
homemade.
And maple peanuts. It turns
Maple
out.
peanuts.
That's beautiful.
Jimmy
What
Carter meets Aunt Jemima.
Isn't that like Pearl,
She's
Pearl
gone.
Mills or something now?
I don't know. They don't even.
I think it's some
They're not
other
even allowed to say it
brand.
anymore. I don't know.
Pearl-
It's
Pearl
fine.
Mills.
It's for the better. Okay.
Pearl Milling Company.
All right.
I
Listen.
don't-
We're at this part.
Oh.
We have to ask you a question. What goes in your backpack? It could be something physical. It could be something metaphorical. Carrie, give Robert Ottone the idea for something physical you could throw into a backpack.
Extra set of teeth.
An extra set of teeth.
DJ Cumberbund said that. And I was like, I don't know why you'd need it, but if you needed it, you'd really need it.
It'd be good if you had them.
Mhm.
How about something metaphorical?
Oh, kindness.
Hmm.
Ariel Helvetica, burlesque performer, said kindness should go in the backpack.
Robert, what should we add to the backpack from you?
So a physical thing, I would say, would be Tylenol. To deal with the children all day, you're going to need this. To more specifically deal with their parents and the administration, you may need Tylenol in order to deal with it. A metaphorical thing, I would say, the ability to write like everyone you know is dead, because then you're free.
Nailed it.
Right? Like everyone you know is dead.
He gets spoken to about like every other LinkedIn post he puts out.
Yeah, I get in a little trouble at the old works.
No, you can't. You can't worry about what people are going to think. Like, so am I? Like, I'm a little worried about what some of my friends will think of this book, if and when they do read it, because they're going to see. So they're going to feel called out. I'm especially worried what
they couldn't possibly read your book.
Josh is going to know who Josh derived from, no question about it.
100%. I just hung out with that person the other day, that guy, and he was like, "I can't wait for your new book," and I was like,
"You probably can wait for the new book."
Yeah,
I'll send you a copy and just like change it.
Just
send him his own
address. Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, he's gonna know for sure. He's an intelligent dude, so yeah.
Well, it's going to be a thing. I was fortunate enough to be raised in Maine, so I lived just up the street from Stephen King, pretty much. About 40 minutes from my house. And one of the things that I can tell you about visiting there for the first time up in that neck of the woods is that my grandmother knew him and had a certain secret conversation with him. And I'll tell you the thing she said that shocked everybody in the family.